Why is Frozen still a thing? And it's like a big thing. It's sequel big, theme park ride big, little girl costume big. It's massive and relevant and inescapable, which is frustrating to me because I think the movie is totally, ridiculously, and irredeemably fine. It's fine. It's a fine movie. I know I'm not alone in this opinion, mostly because I remember the Frozen haters from back when this movie came out, and I had my fun entertaining their ideas too, seeing as I wasn't completely enamored by this movie like everyone else seemed to be. But nowadays, I can't help but wonder if the occasional hatred was warranted either. The thing is, Frozen came out 10 years ago. Yeah, I know it's been 11 years, but I was on hiatus, so it doesn't count. I feel like so much has changed since then, from our perspective concerning this specific story and others of the same kind, to how much the industry was changed by this very movie. I felt inspired to revisit it and give it a watch with the type of fairness I don't think I ever offered to this film. So, I've decided to examine Frozen with a critical eye and see if I can finally answer the age-old question, the conundrum that has led to countless sleepless nights of endless pondering. Movie good? Or movie bad? Why don't we find out together? I want to talk about Frozen. Okay, I gotta start by saying that this movie absolutely slayed with the opening. Talk about grabbing you by the ears and not letting go. The dreamy chorus slowly building up as we watch the snowflakes carefully form and gently glide across the screen, creating an atmosphere that's almost hypnotic with the title coming into view. Only to be greeted by another banger of a number, where a group of ice cutters slays through the thick frozen mountain layers, singing a hearty shanty about both the beauty and power of nature, which is also gracefully conveyed through the visuals. The astral light shining through the ice blocks, so soft and ethereal. And yet, with every movement, you see how much the men struggle to keep these forms within their control. Ice is striking, and it can also strike you. Perfect stillness and sudden violence rolled into one. What a sequence of openers. I'm hooked. Given this movie's track record, it feels almost redundant for me to recap the story in hopes to unpack it. Everybody knows that Frozen follows the story of two sisters, Elsa and Anna, with the former being gifted with ice powers and the latter being a great admirer of them. Their bond is set up from the start, as Anna wakes up Elsa at the crack of dawn, begging for her sister to come and play with her. Elsa uses her powers to change the empty halls of her castle into a winter wonderland, where Anna and her play together as if in a world of their own, unbothered and hidden from trouble. That is, until Elsa accidentally hits Anna with her powers, and we immediately see how the girl's emotional state has a heavy impact in how her magic manifests. Where before we had the softness of snow, when Elsa becomes distraught, the room is quickly filled with thick and unforgiving frost, bringing a dangerous sense of stillness to these once glistening halls. In order to heal Anna from this fantastical ice curse, all traces of magic have to be removed from her head, physically and figuratively, meaning she is no longer allowed to keep any memories of Elsa having powers. Afraid that if Elsa gives in to her magical tendencies with time, she will end up hurting her sister once more, her parents advise her to keep her powers hidden, both from the outer world and from herself. She starts wearing gloves at all times, she tries to keep her feelings muted, and she shuts herself in her room. This setup is not only unhealthy for Elsa, but it ends up hurting Anna too, who has no memory of ever being hit by her sister. All she remembers is that she was really close to Elsa, and then suddenly one day her sister stopped talking to her. Elsa manages to keep her powers in check all the way into her adult life, until one fateful night when Anna follows her and repeatedly questions why Elsa shut her out, causing her sister to burst in anger and shoot out a wall of ice between them, shocking Anna and horrifying the many guests at the castle. Ashamed and terrified, Elsa flees into the mountains, where we get the ultimate scene. And as Elsa sings about freedom and liberation, I cannot help but wonder, is Elsa gay? I'm not the first to think that, not at all. In fact, this was one of the main topics of discourse that followed this movie since its very release. But really, stick with me for a second. Imagine there's a part of yourself, one you don't fully understand, but it's been with you since as long as you can remember. And you are told that this part is not only deeply connected to your feelings, but that it's also bound to grow with time. You might not particularly mind it, and at times you might even find joy in it, and discover that it can help you connect with others in an entirely new way. But there are plenty of people out there who would call you a monster for it. Therefore, you learn to hide it. You are told by other people, older, supposedly wiser, that you should conceal that part of yourself and never let it show. Never let yourself feel the things that would make that part evident. Hiding it is hard, but you succumb to it, because there's no other way you'd be accepted. But in doing so, you find that you're also shutting other people out. Until one day, you're found out. Your secret, your terrible nature is broadcast wide for all to see, and they shun you for it, just like you'd always been told would be the case. With no other options, you run, even if you have nowhere to go. All you know is that you cannot bear to stay where you're not wanted. In fleeing, you find a new place, somewhere in which you're surrounded by the same elements that feel utterly in tune with your nature, and you find yourself suddenly free. How liberating, how staggering, how exciting to be you, truly yourself, for the first time in years, maybe decades. How you discover that all along you were capable of doing all sorts of amazing things, of being a version of yourself so radiant and unstoppable that all at once things don't seem as bad anymore. As long as you can accept that part of yourself, see yourself as a whole, you know there's nothing that can stand in your way. Isn't it beautiful? So yes, gay people relate a lot to Elsa. How could they not? Except when I watched this movie, I didn't know I was gay. Was I a little bit in denial? Sure, but that's beside the point. The thing is, even without the rainbow glasses, I related deeply to Elsa's struggle in this movie too, for an entirely different reason. Before I start talking about my own identification journey, I wanted to add that the queer reading I did of Elsa's struggles does not reflect the journey of every single gay person out there, myself included. There is something to be said about how gay stories are often seen as tragic, and my reading might be seen as that too, since Elsa was forcibly outed. However, to me, the strongest point is the freedom that she finds in accepting her true self, which I think rings true to a lot of queer experiences, and I'm including mine here too. Now back to the video. You see, I cry a lot. I've always cried a lot. And it's all fun and games when you're bawling at a movie where the dog dies and you show everybody your pure, sensitive soul. But it's not very good when you're having a panic attack in the middle of school because you accidentally forgot to do your math homework and you can't stop thinking about how you've disappointed everyone who's ever loved you and how you'll never find happiness again. I related to Elsa because I cried a lot, and I was bullied for it. So I was told to bottle that stuff up. both by cruel peers who only wanted me to shut up, and by very reasonable and trustworthy adults, who were incredibly well-meaning and just wanted me to find a better way to cope with my feelings, but who ended up advising me to suppress that part of myself altogether. Sure, when the movie came out and everyone talked about how Elsa was gay, I could totally see where they were coming from, and I felt almost silly for thinking that the character was a portrait of me. But in a way, she was. And that's not all. Elsa's story is about building a mask of oneself, a sort of public persona you let other people see while hiding the truth, afraid that if they saw how your emotions truly functioned, they would ostracize you for it, which also resonates with a portrait of neurodivergence. But speaking in general terms, it's not far-fetched to say that everybody has felt at some point or another that they've had to hide their true selves. Be it because you're performing as your corporate self at work, or because you don't feel totally at ease with your new group of friends, or because you want someone specific to have a good impression of you. And we can all relate to the beauty and freedom of expressing yourself after you're finally out of that repressively performative situation. What Elsa feels is universal. To some, it might speak to a deeper truth, but deep down, we all wish we could unleash our truest form one way or another, especially if it came with ice powers and a glittery outfit change. We love Elsa because she speaks to all of us. And in order to be so relatable, so deeply human, Elsa has to be something that Disney princesses aren't always allowed to be. Elsa has to be filled with angst. She feels things. My God, is she feeling things. She is inner turmoil incarnate. She is power from emotions. She feels so much, all the time, and it hurts so much to keep it hidden, but she has to, because no one would understand her true self. Elsa once found refuge in Anna, who loved her and her powers. But when she had to shut herself away, again thanks to the advice of well-meaning but ultimately unhelpful adults, she lost her sister too. There's a sort of tragic poetry in how Elsa can only be with Anna if she is her true self, and how, in trying to protect her by shunning that side of herself, she ends up hurting not only herself, but the very person she was trying to save. A big conflict in the movie comes from how Elsa accidentally froze her kingdom while running away, and Anna tries to convince her to thaw it back to normal. But Elsa feels hopeless because she doesn't know how. Anna believes they can work something out if they stick together, but Elsa, who's seen her powers do way more harm than good, doesn't think that's possible. When Elsa was a kid, she was told that fear would only make her powers worse. But she was raised with the notion that she was an unnatural beast who only brings destruction and who would be hated if she showed off her true self, so of course she would be afraid all the time. The solution to controlling her powers is love, which is posed as the opposite of fear. But Elsa wouldn't know it, because for most of her life, Elsa was never shown love. Her parents loved her, but not entirely. There was a condition to their love, and that condition was keeping her powers hidden. She did it because she loved them too, but they never really gave her a chance to be her true self. Anna was the one who truly loved her, but in shutting her sister out, Elsa shut out her love as well. Elsa gets too agitated and shoots out a beam of ice that hits Anna in the chest without Elsa realizing it. And Anna is later told only an act of true love can lift her curse. Anna, who is a bit naive when the subject is love, tries fixing the issue by finding love in a guy she had a crush on, and then in a different guy she had a crush on, but none of it works. It is only when she herself shows love for her sister that the curse is lifted. The gesture of true love didn't have to come from someone else. It was Anna who made it happen by sacrificing herself to save Elsa's life, because she loved her, all of her, more than she had ever loved anyone else. I love this. This had never been done before. Except for when Aquamarine did this with friendly love, and when Once Upon a Time did it with motherly love. But I'm not complaining. I love non-amatonormative ways of expressing true love. I'll take every example I can get. By being shown love and realizing how it thawed away the ice in her sister's heart, Elsa understands love is the answer and reverses her icy curse, freeing the kingdom from its snowy prison. From this day on, the sisters lived happily ever after, together at last, just like when they were kids, as they were always meant to be. And we don't talk about the sequel. To me, one of the highlights of the message of this movie is that not only is love the answer, but love is shown to have always been there, even when it seemed to have been lost or hidden away. And the greatest manifestation of this is Olaf. Olaf the Snowman is not only comic relief, but I swear to God, he is plot relevant. Olaf stands as a symbol of the loving relationship Anna and Elsa had as kids, since he was a character Elsa created in order to entertain her sister, and her sister immediately accepted him. When Elsa flees to the mountain and explores the true extent of her ice powers, one of the very first things she creates is Olaf, as if her mind immediately drifted to her childhood memories of magic, forever connecting her powers to the act of playing with her sister. When Anna is dying, cold and alone after her first crush broke her heart, it is Olaf who comes to save her and teaches her the true meaning of love. After all, who better to teach that lesson than a being who was brought to life by love itself? And also, Olaf is funny. He became kind of infamous because Disney kept shoving him down our throats, but he's actually funny in this.
It's fine. I'm good. I've got a thick skull.
I don't have a skull. Or bones.
Seriously, if you haven't watched this movie since you first saw it in theaters and you came to hate this little snowman because Disney wouldn't shut up about him, I recommend watching Frozen a second time and giving Olaf a chance. You might be surprised at how much of his humor actually hits. In conclusion, Frozen good. Elsa is a great protagonist, there's a great lesson about love, really good music, and wonderful visuals. Except that's not what the movie is about. The movie is about Anna. And Anna is freaking quirky. Anna is many things. She's an ugly sleeper. She's overly excited. She talks about being gassy. She stuffs chocolate down her face and talks with her mouth open. She runs around the castle and breaks stuff and puts her feet up the panel while her friend is driving.
You're gorgeous. Wait, what?
The curse of the quirky female character has been discussed at length already over the years. And to Frozen's credit, the archetype wasn't so ubiquitous then as it is now, 10 years later. But Frozen is certainly guilty in popularizing it. And it was also when this tendency became most notable in mainstream media. Having a quirky character is like saying you're a perfectionist in a job interview when they ask you about your defects. Sure, it's a flaw, but it's not really a flaw, is it? You're just saying that to look good. Truly, much like the flaw of the perfectionist lies in how others simply cannot match their impeccable standards, the flaw of the quirky character is how other people just don't have enough joy and whimsy in their heart to accept them for all of their quirks. As much as it pains me to say it, Anna falls flat. She has no real flaws and ends up feeling like a cop-out. None of the depth and complexity of Elsa is ever extended to Anna, even though they are posed as halves of the same whole. And unfortunately, we have to spend most of the runtime with Anna. The one big mistake Anna makes in this movie is falling for Hans, who romances her at first but then turns out to be a villain. And really, you can't fault Anna for this mistake because she is posed as being in the right for giving love a chance. That's her whole thing, she has a lot of love to give. The problem was that an ill-intentioned man took advantage of that, and Anna had no way of knowing he was evil, because frankly, neither did we. There's one scene in this movie that breaks a bit of the magic for me. When Anna first meets Hans, they have a bit of a back and forth on a boat stuck on top of a pier, and as Anna steps away, Hans falls into the water, lifting up the boat and giving Anna a charming, wistful look as she walks away. That's dumb. This was the big chance to hint towards Hans's true intentions. At this point in the story, he had just put his careful plan of gaining Anna's trust into motion, and he finds himself completely alone, with no one to judge him. If we were ever given any chance at all to see Hans for who he truly was, his expression should not be one of softness and devotion, but instead of charisma and slyness. He was not swept away by Anna. He was the one doing the sweeping. It would be entirely for the benefit of the audience, by the way, I'm not denying that. But by giving the viewer zero clues to the fact that Hans was evil, when it comes time for the reveal, it doesn't feel striking, it just feels cheap. It's endemic of spoiler culture, of finding victory in fully deceiving one's audience instead of giving it a chance to play along and become truly involved in the narrative. And it was the unfortunate beginning of a Disney legacy of underwhelming twist villains, the reveal way more annoying than it is clever. So you have this deeply complex story about the bond between two sisters, and the love that persists even as all forces are against it. But it's lost in a sea of quirky mannerisms and cheap character beats. It still undermines the whole experience for me, as it did years ago when I first watched it. But none of it really matters, because Frozen won. There was this one time before the pandemic where my family and I were out at a local restaurant. It was around Christmas time, so the place had put up some holiday decorations, including a little Olaf plush to match the rest of the snowy scene they'd set up. And I remember looking at it and realizing it had been 6 years since Frozen had come out, but it was still just as relevant as it was on day one. And that was 5 years ago. And this fact has not changed. Frozen is big. It's the biggest thing to have happened to Disney since the Renaissance. It was everywhere and it still is. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, it didn't have to be. Even if it's flawed, people still can't seem to let it go. Frozen's legacy speaks for itself. The soundtrack becoming a musical phenomenon, the critique of Disney's past with Anna's whole engagement plot, and the discourse over whether or not that critique was even earned. The whole thing with queer people being so starved for representation, they started speculating if the sauna guy was gay, since we knew Elsa would never be, even if she spoke to a truth deep within our hearts. So much has been said about Frozen, and so much will continue to be said. I wish I could give in more. Truly love this movie, get lost in the magic. I guess this video is as close as I ever got. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. Frozen is bigger than any of us is ever going to be. And if you put Let It Go at the karaoke, well, don't be surprised if I sing my heart out. Thank you for watching. Well, hello there. It was very nice of you to watch this video. Special thanks to my beautiful patrons for making videos like these possible. You guys are the act of true love that thaws my frozen heart. In fact, the subject of this video was voted for by my patrons, so this essay would literally not exist if not for you. Thanks again, and I hope you had fun. If you have enjoyed the video, you can also help me out by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell too. You can also follow me on Twitter, even though I'm still not allowed to post there, and share this video with your friends. Check out my second channel too if you have the time. It doesn't have much there, but one day it just might. The link to those things will be in the description. Feel free to leave a comment down below, especially if it is about how much you love Frozen. Coming back to YouTube has been pretty hard for algorithm reasons, since my channel was all but banished to the Shadow Realm, but this just makes me appreciate each view and comment even more. So if you've ever watched a video of mine or left a comment, especially in these latest videos, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
But put me in summer and I'll be a